Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Naga Munchetty and Charlie State.
Our headlines today. Closing in on victory. Joe Biden tells America that he's on his way to the White House.
The numbers tell us it's clear, tell us a clear and convincing story. We're going to win this race.
Democrats have been celebrating in the streets, but there have been protests from Republicans, with Donald Trump warning Joe Biden not to claim the presidency.
Throughout the programme, we'll have reaction and all the latest from Washington.
All foreign visitors from Denmark have been banned from entering the UK because of a strain of coronavirus that spread from the country's mink farms.
Good morning. Anything is possible, according to the Southampton manager, after his side go top of the Premier League for the first time ever, after beating Newcastle.
We'll hear from the D-Day veteran and fundraising hero Harry Billinge as the nation prepares for Remembrance Day with a difference.
And for some of us this morning, it's a little misty, a little foggy, but with a bit of luck, there'll be some sunshine around this afternoon as well.
Good morning. It's Saturday, the 7th of November. Now, in the past few hours, Joe Biden has addressed the United States and declared that he will win the race for the White House.
Overnight, Donald Trump had warned his rival not to claim the presidency and that legal proceedings were only just beginning.
But speaking at his campaign headquarters in Delaware, Joe Biden said he had a clear and convincing lead in key states where the final ballots are being counted.
Well, let's take a look now at how that race stands. Mr. Biden has extended his lead over President Trump in Pennsylvania and in Georgia. Those counts are still going on, but he still needs 17 more Electoral College votes to reach the 270 required to win.
Our Washington correspondent, Lebu Desecco, has the story of the night.
Joe Biden's supporters danced through the day and into the night in the city of Philadelphia. Their candidate's lead in this state is steadily growing, and they can taste the victory. Winning in Pennsylvania would mean Joe Biden becomes the president. With more than 95% of votes counted, he's inching his way there. But with some votes still to come in, it may be some time before a result's declared.
We don't have a final declaration.
On Friday evening, Joe Biden addressed the nation. He stopped short of declaring victory, but his tone and message deliberately presidential.
The numbers tell us it's clear, tell us a clear and convincing story. We're going to win this race. Just look at what has happened since yesterday. 24 hours, we were behind in Georgia. Now we're ahead, and we're going to win that state. 24 hours ago, we were behind in Pennsylvania, and we are going to win Pennsylvania.
On Twitter, Donald Trump again expressed frustration at seeing his election night leads miraculously disappear. But it was the counting of postal votes that shifted the numbers so dramatically, a process Donald Trump had told his supporters not to trust. As results trickle in from other battleground states, the picture building is not in his favour. In both Nevada and Arizona, Joe Biden's lead is increasing. Georgia's results are so close an automatic recount was triggered, but it's unlikely that would change the result by more than a few hundred votes.
Out of the approximately 5 million votes cast, we'll have a margin of a few thousand. The focus for our office and for the county elections officials for now remains on making sure that every legal vote is counted and recorded accurately.
Donald Trump has filed legal action in several states in an effort to turn his fortunes around. And there's no evidence of the widespread fraud that he alleges. The legal hurdles may create a bumpy path. But Joe Biden increasingly seems to be on firm footing on his road to the White House.
So our Washington correspondent, Lebu Desecco, joins us now as well. Lebu, good to see you. This is close, isn't it? And we're just waiting.
Really is. I mean, even Joe Biden in that address said that we need to be patient and we're not entirely sure when we're going to get a result. He seems pretty sure that it is going to be for him. I mean, everyone is watching Pennsylvania because of those 20 electoral college votes. They do still have some votes to be counted, around 86,000 votes that they have to be counted. There are still votes coming in. Military votes there have a little bit more time. And there's also the issue of what are called provisional ballots. That's where someone has voted, but maybe there's an issue with the vote, maybe something like the ID or signature that needs to be resolved. As I said in my report, Donald Trump has also launched several legal actions in Pennsylvania alone and also around the country. It is difficult to see how he would get to that magic 270 without Pennsylvania or Georgia as well. And Georgia is about to go to a recount, although that's unlikely to substantially change where we stand with things. So it is a bit of a waiting game. I was speaking to people in Detroit just a few, really, I can't even remember where I am, where I've been. It was yesterday. But people saying to me that, look, there's a pandemic on. Why would you be surprised that it would take so long to get the votes in? And I think that's what ordinary people that aren't necessarily as invested as Democrats and Republicans, you know, party people might be, are saying.
Lebu, I mean, I must say, it is exciting, despite all the confusion about where you've been and what you've been following. This is a moment, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Absolutely historic. Whatever happens, I think we're watching history being made here.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Lebu, thank you very much. Lebu Duseko there for us.
Foreign visitors arriving from Denmark will be denied entry to the UK because of widespread coronavirus outbreaks in mink farms in the country.
The decision was announced overnight by the British government. It came into effect this morning.
We can speak to our correspondent Andy Moore, who's at Heathrow Airport for us this morning. So just take us through what's been said, Andy.
Good morning, Charlie. Well, these are some pretty tough restrictions that have been imposed by the UK on Denmark. Some of the toughest restrictions we've seen since the pandemic began. We've got 4 planes arriving from Denmark today, 1 ferry arriving in the UK. The first plane actually arrived about 20 minutes ago here at Heathrow, British Airways plane. And I think you can bet that the passengers on board that plane are getting some special attention from border officials right now. With military precision, the cull of around 17 million mink in Denmark has already begun. It's a sign of how seriously the Danish government is taking the threat from a new strain of coronavirus that's believed to have spread to around 200 humans.
The Danish government regards this as a very concerning development, and we are treating it with the utmost seriousness. We are taking all necessary and appropriate actions, including the culling of all remaining mink in Denmark. We have indications that this unique mutation have a reduced response to antibodies, which can ultimately affect the efficiency of potential vaccines.
The World Health Organization is monitoring the situation very closely, but says it's too early to jump to conclusions. Whatever the risk from the new strain, the British government is very keen to stop it spreading here, so has imposed some very strict regulations at very short notice. No foreign visitors will be allowed in from Denmark with immediate effect. British nationals will be exempt, but they will have to isolate with all other members of their families for 2 weeks. Officials will also contact anyone who's been in Denmark in the last fortnight to make sure they do the same. Now, the concern of the Danish authorities is that this new strain may be resistant to vaccines. That's why they've imposed local travel bans in North Jutland in Denmark, where many of these mink farms are. That concern is shared by the British authorities. I think what they want to do is to stop that strain spreading to the UK, getting here in the first place and spreading within the UK. And I think after that, they will try and decide whether it is dangerous or not. Charlie?
Andy, thanks very much.
Now, although many Remembrance Sunday events will be different this year, fundraising has still been taking place across the country.
In Worcestershire, Malvern Rugby Club have decorated their pitch with a huge painted poppy, while in Warwickshire, students at Ulster Academy have raised more than £1,000 for the Royal British Legion by creating Perspex poppies in a garden of remembrance.
8:10 is the time. Our top story: the gap between Donald Trump and Joe Biden has widened overnight. Votes continue to be counted in the remaining battleground states.
Let's speak now to supporters of both camps. Inga Kemtrup is the chair of Democrats Abroad, and Aaron Flower is from Republicans Overseas. Very good morning to both. I wonder, maybe we start, Aaron, with you. Republicans Overseas, you'll have been watching of course, very closely what's going on. Many people, of course, are saying momentum now, as we await those final results, is very much with Joe Biden. What picture do you see?
Well, right now I see that no matter what the result is, whether it continues in Joe Biden's favor, even if it swings back into Donald Trump's favor, I think it's very likely that the gap is so small that we're going to be seeing recounts in a lot of these states. And then from that point, we're going to have to wait for the recounts.
And what do you make of Donald Trump's, I know he's been tweeting a lot. We heard from Joe Biden address the nation directly, and we've heard a number of from Donald Trump, a number of tweets this morning. What do you make of what he's saying?
Well, I know that I think everybody wants every single legitimate ballot to be counted. And I can see that, after the ballots are counted, we're going to have a very close call in the election. Then there's going to be the recounts. And then there's, these possibility or these accusations and, the actual possibility of fraud. And that's going to be brought potentially before the Supreme Court. And I think both sides should want that to happen, because if there is any kind of fraud happening, both sides should want to, either lay that to rest or let it come to light so that legitimate votes can be counted in this election.
And we need to say straight away that at this stage there is no evidence of fraud, and that's widely recognised. Inga, do you want to pick up for us as well around the Democrats and what you made of Joe Biden's speech this morning?
Well, he's reminding us, Joe Biden, that it's a long wait, but in the end, the numbers are telling us a clear and convincing story that we are going to win. I mean, you've been talking about the numbers here, and Biden is in the lead, and that continues throughout. And it's as I look at the numbers, what I'm also finding really encouraging is what they're telling us about the number of people who are turning out. The youth vote is up. I just saw that this morning fantastically. So these things are really encouraging. It's an enormous fight. I'm quite confident that very shortly we will be getting news that Biden has won quite firmly. The lawsuits are quite baseless that Trump and the Republicans are doing. It's a very desperate kind of stand. I think we see things where, he wants to stop the count in one state and continue the count somewhere else where it suits him. Democracy was really the winner with this election. People were voting. The count has been calm. I'm very hopeful that's going to continue and we'll have a resolution soon. And I think that was the tone we got from Joe Biden last night as well.
Aaron, I mean, it's important, isn't it, to think about tone now as well, regardless of what happens with the count, because there has been a markedly different tone between President Trump and Joe Biden when it comes to their comments.
Well, that is the case, and that seems to have been the case the entire election, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Donald Trump is in the wrong. But honestly, as a Republican, I find this election, whatever the end result is going to be, I find it promising. It seems that the Republican Party is going to be retaining the Senate. We've picked up many seats in the House of Representatives, and the Republican base has become more diversified, which what that signals to me is that a lot of the rhetoric that you're finding from the far left side of the Democratic Party is not resonating with the American people, and they're starting to retaliate back and elect more Republicans.
Well, if Joe Biden is president-elect, if he is announced as president-elect, what faith do you have in him in terms of bringing these divides, narrowing these divides that have obviously emerged during the campaign?
Well, obviously, he's talked about reaching across the aisle if he wins the presidency. That does sound hopeful, and I would hope that that would be if he wins the Joe Biden that shows up. But I also know throughout the election, he's called everybody who's voted for Donald Trump, he's called them awful people, which, as we've seen, that's nearly half of America. So that's not very unifying. He, back in 2012, when he was running against Mitt Romney, or he and Barack Obama were running against Mitt Romney, he tried claiming that Mitt Romney, who's one of the most mild Republicans, he said that he was going to put black people back in chains. So that's not very unifying rhetoric. So hopefully he comes up and proves me wrong.
Inga, one of the reality checks here for Joe Biden, and I think Aaron made reference to it there, is that he is clearly ahead in the popular vote, as in the number of people who voted for him. He is ahead in that vote, but it remains a fact that a huge number of people in America voted for Donald Trump. And that's something he has to take on board, and take on board very quickly.
Yes, we still have a lot of divisions, to be sure, in the U.S. But let's remember also that during the time that Trump has been president, he has been fanning the flames of those divisions. He's made really no effort to go across the aisle, to listen to other people, to try to work in other viewpoints. It's all sort of been about him and the way he runs. I think we're looking for a more positive time, and we deal with the huge issues we have. The COVID pandemic, our economy, systemic racism, climate change, not least of all. It's all affecting us now. And if we don't get started on this, time, particularly when it comes to climate change, is running out. And I understand that the Biden team is being briefed on that and is thinking about the next steps they're going to take. And yes, reaching out to people across the country is part of it, because we're all affected by these things.
Inga, Kem Trump, Aaron Flower, thank you very much both for talking to us this morning with your views.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.